struts like John Wayne, resembles Jim Carrey, and dresses like he's visually impaired. Because he is. Insight with Mark Farrell on the Progressive Radio Network.
Yes. New York City, sweltering today. And today's probably going to be the cooler of the next 2 or 3 days. 3 digits. 100, 110. Yikes. That's going to be unbearable here in the Big Apple. Insight's the show. Hey, it's Mark Farrell. How you been? 1 minute after 11 o'clock, straight up in the capital of the world, New York City. Hope all is well. I'll tell you, just when you think you've heard enough, seen enough, and probably envisioned enough Trumpisms, they just keep coming. And I think at this point, we're kind of numb to thinking they're not going to get much worse. And they keep getting worse, but the result doesn't seem to be penetrating most of the Republican side. So it's very frustrating. So on Monday night, Colbert had a great show, and Trump was going on and on about, on Monday, his tweets over the weekend, how they were received against the squad, the 4 congressional women who he told to go back. I mean, how could you, the leader of our free world, the person who sets the precedent, the tone, who should have panache, decorum, professionalism, respect. You know where I'm going. I don't need to continue with this. And here he is, the biggest bully, the biggest racist that was ever in a public office, certainly of this caliber. So we have a clip for you. It's about 3 minutes and change, but hang in there because the payoff is great. You could Google this, I'm sure, and find it. But it kind of sums up a lot of what Trump has done in the last 4 or 5 days. And it's frustrating, but also it's comedic. And here it is. This is from Monday's Stephen Colbert.
This afternoon, it was on the South Lawn. On the South Lawn, Trump was asked about the tweets, and he had a simple message. Women be complaining.
Well, they're very unhappy. I'm watching them. All they do is complain. Never happy. I see them complaining. They're complaining constantly.
And it's not just them. Everywhere I go, young women complain. It's all, I'm uncomfortable, don't touch me. Just because I'm your wife doesn't mean I have to love you. There's the door. Then Trump doubled down on his message.
Very simply, you can leave. You can leave right now. Come back if you want. Don't come back. It's okay, too. But if you're not happy, you can leave.
Oh, shut up.
He gets a standing ovation right here.
I'm sorry. My mom told me not to say that. My mom told me not to say that, but come on. Nobody complains about America more than you do, you cranky old nut lid. Everything in your life has been handed to you on a silver platter, and yet every other word out of your mouth is a tantrum that would get a toddler dragged out of a ball pit. You complain about everything. You don't like Bette Midler. Who doesn't like Bette Midler? The divine Miss M, the wind beneath our wings. I'll tell you, if someone is leaving this country, it should be you. And if you're looking for a new home, might I suggest that you go to hell? Then Trump was asked directly about the inherent racism of his comments.
Does it concern you that many people saw that tweet as racist and that white nationalist groups are finding common cause with you on that point?
It doesn't concern me because many people agree with me.
Yes, many people agree with you, like the white nationalists. Trump also responded to Nancy Pelosi's tweets about his comments by purposefully misunderstanding her tweet about his comments.
Speaker Pelosi said we want to make America white again. Is that true?
Well, that's just a very racist statement, somebody that would say that. So Speaker Pelosi said, make America white again.
said that's what
Let me
you
tell you,
want
that's
to
a
do. Is
very
that true,
racist,
sir?
that's a very racist statement. I'm surprised she'd say that.
Yes, it's very racist. It's very racist. I'm surprised she would say that because that is copyright infringement and she will be hearing from my lawyers, okay? That's my day. That's my gig. Never rub another man's rhubarb.
So that's what we're dealing with. I mean, it's funny, but it's really sad at the same time. Unbelievable. Again, that's Stephen Colbert from Monday Night. And Kellyanne Conway, I don't know if you saw this or read about this the other day on the lawn as well, I believe, was asked by a reporter about country of origin, etc. And then she said to the reporter, where are you from? And the reporter said, well, I just don't think that's relevant. And she kept hounding him. Where are you from? What country are you from? We're all from somewhere. And so she put out a semi-apology later that day, saying I was just trying to give a platform of the relevance of my question and response, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just one abysmal train wreck after another. And you know what's so funny? I forgot about this marriage. Kellyanne Conway's husband is a staunch Democrat. And I'm not sure if he is a writer by trade, but anyway, he had a op-ed in Sunday's op-ed of the Washington Post. And the headline read, Trump is a racist. So I don't know. It must be very interesting banter around the dining room table at night with Kellyanne Conway and her husband. I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, there's a few relationships that are in the public eye that are like that. And that's great because I don't think everybody should certainly be on the same side because how else do we learn from different viewpoints, different perspectives, different experiences? You know, I think there's valid points that the Republicans make. I think there are invalid points that the Democrats make. But overall, I'm a Democrat. Certainly not one side has all the answers, et cetera. So anyway, but you know, I saw an interesting thing online the other day where Mount Rushmore was made of the squad, I should say, the four congressional women on Mount Rushmore. I thought that was pretty humorous and factual and/or, you know, it wouldn't come true. But why isn't there? Why wouldn't we consider a modern day person for Mount Rushmore? It doesn't have to be at Mount Rushmore. It could be a symbolic structure somewhere else. But, you know, why not? And certainly someone of color and certainly someone of a different gender. So the show is Insight. My name is Mark Farrell. Thanks so much for spending your Thursday morning with me. Hopefully, wherever you are, you're not working entirely too hard. August is around the corner. It's got some vacations coming up. That made me think about summer vacations. As a matter of fact, two of my kids. I only have two kids. My two kids are actually with me today because they had a little just logistical issue with camp today. And I think about, you know, the camp, the one and only time I went to camp when I was probably in 8th grade, I want to say. And it was a camp for the blind and visually impaired. So this was kind of a last-second thing. And it was based in New Jersey. Of course, the radio station's here in New York, and New Jersey's a neighboring state. And I was told that, you know what, you're a little bit older than most of the campers. But, you know, you'll still have fun. You'll be able to get, you know, an enriching experience out of it. And I was like, okay, sure, you know, let's give it a whirl. So I went there, and it was a sleepaway camp for a week. And I realized that majority of the campers were severely visually impaired or blind. So I was kind of like in a very uncomfortable place because up to that point, having a rare visual impairment, I was never around other adults or kids, anyone my age, with a visual impairment. So here I am surrounded by, I don't know, maybe 75, 100 kids, various degrees, boys and girls, visually impaired or totally blind, or maybe deafblind as well, dual disabilities. So it's very interesting. And as a matter of fact, I initially started linking up with the counselors because they were closer in age. So I was like, all right, well, this is interesting. This is something so very foreign to me. But you know what? When in Rome. So I remember one day it rained and they had a bowling alley, literally one lane. And when the pins were knocked over, we had to reset them. So here I am at the end of this bowling alley where the pins were falling over, and they're surrounded by cushions so the balls wouldn't pop up, and the pins, I guess, it would deaden the sound, etc. So here I am sitting on top of this like cushioned area, thinking to myself, oh my God, this is hysterical. I'm showing these other kids how to place the pins after they were knocked over by the ball, whether it's a strike, a spare, or whatever. And this is something that's really kind of invaluable. At the time, I certainly probably thought it was more humorous than lessons learned in life. And there I was, teaching these kids, no, you got to put the pin here, you got to put the pin there. And it was like a loader mechanism, but it was all manual. And then the funniest part was, I walked away with a trophy for the day for, I don't know what the score was, high score. Maybe I got 120 or whatever, something like that. And I went home. I remember going home the end of the week, and my sister's boyfriend was there, and I walk in with a trophy, and he's like, hey, what's that for? I'm like, for bowling. He's like, well, wasn't it against blind and visually impaired kids? I'm like, yeah. So, I mean, the house kind of fell apart in stitches. So, I mean, there was a lot of comedy there, but it was a great time. There was a lot of sports, adaptable. I thought it was a very insightful experience for me, because here I was the first time without my parents around. And not only that, but in a environment that was totally, totally new to me. And some kids were very homesick. I was definitely a little homesick. I remember calling home and I'm like, oh man, I think I'd rather be there. But, it's a great lesson in fortitude, resilience, adaptability, just fending for yourself. Of course, there are counselors there and directors, et cetera, but I always kind of wince when I hear parents say, and I don't know anybody who actually does this, but certainly we all know that people do, send their kids off for the entire summer, like July and August to camp. I mean, why bother having kids? You're going to be without your kids for 8 weeks? Maybe you go visit them once or twice, but I just don't get that. I obviously can't be bothered with having a child if they want to send their kids to an 8-week sleepaway camp. And they're usually not close. They're usually far. And they're far from cheap. So my kids are in a rec camp. And it's adequate. My son was in a different camp a few years ago that was a little bit more involved and more options and in terms of the arts and entertainment, et cetera. But he chose to do this, and this is great. But going back to this story of my Camp Marceau at the blind and visually impaired camp, they had a talent show. And I remember speaking to one of the counselors. I think the counselor was an adult, and I'm like, I have no idea what I should do. She's like, well, what are you talented in? I think I probably told her woodworking back then. I mean, what are you going to do on stage with woodworking? Cut a piece of wood? I mean, that's not going to make a popsicle stick house in front of people, snore fest. So what am I going to do? So I don't know how this happened, but she has a guitar, and she's like, well, I could teach you a song. I'm like, okay. So, I mean, this says a lot about a counselor and their patience and their willingness to teach somebody a new craft, a new skill in no time flat. I think we had a day and a half. So she taught me, I know, this is a really funny song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star on the guitar. But guess what? I know how to play inside and out, different chords, different keys to this day. And I'll never, ever, ever forget that experience, especially when night came, the last night before camp was ending. Big stage, full auditorium. My mother showed up to see the big performance with Mark and a guitar. And I got up on stage and played Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So it was hysterical then. It's even more hysterical now thinking about it. But the reality is that it took me out of my comfort zone. I learned a skill set, a musical skill set. And do I play the guitar? No. Can I play other songs? Actually, I can play, I think, 2 other. Fire. You know that song, Fire. Dun, 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 dun. Pretty easy on a guitar. And also Smoke on a River. Dun, 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 dun. You know that song. Incredible song. So, Twinkle, Twinkle, well, not so incredible. But, you know, I could play for my kids anytime I'm in a guitar shop or just pick it up and fret away. And I kind of want to pick up the guitar because it's a great instrument. And I leaned toward drums later in my life. But it taught me about resilience. And it taught me about, how my difference, allows me to do things differently. And I couldn't articulate this back then. But seeing all the kids, all the fellow campers, my peers back then, even though I was a year or two older than them, made me realize I'm really lucky with the vision that I have. And one night, this was not my idea. Let me couch this next story by saying this was not my idea. But I definitely was the lead person executing this mission at night. So someone came up with a great idea. Oh, I think I know why. I think one of the other cabins raided another cabin at night. So I think some of the guys in our cabin were like, hey, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. So I'm totally on board, being a little rebellious guy that I was. So what are we going to do? And they're like, wow, a pillow fight. That makes complete sense. I'm like, of course, that's brilliant. A pillow fight. A raid at night to a neighboring cabin with a pillow fight. That's great. So I remember it was maybe 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I don't think we had approval from our counselor to do this, but of course that makes it more fun. So we get up, and I remember turning the lights on in our cabin, getting my pillow and kind of rummaging the troops to life. And we're all kind of getting in line. And, some of the guys who were visually impaired or severely visually impaired or blind, had an escort guide with them, or it was myself. So I remember going into the next cabin and saying, hold on, okay, guys, okay, get ready to do this. Hold on a second, though. I got to find the light switch. And they're like, well, what? I got to find the light switch because it's going to be element surprise. Once we flick on the light, then we can see where we are. And then we can run in and just nail them with the pillows. They're like, Mark, we don't need the light switch. We're either blind or really, really severely poorly sighted. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so then just go. So everybody ran in there, ran amok, and it was just one crazy, epic pillow fight. Historic. I almost want to say, like in the movies, when you're hitting somebody over the head or nailing them with a pillow, you see the feathers floating around. I don't think that was the case because I'm sure we moved to synthetic by then, especially in a camp situation. But it was a hoot. I tell you, it was a great, incredible experience that just taught me that there's nothing like good old camp fun, whether it's just a camp for a person with disabilities or not. But it doesn't matter. Fun is fun. It's even more important. Point is that technology didn't exist back then. And I know that when I drop my kids off nowadays, that some days when it's really hot, they give them an option to go outside or they can stay inside. And most of the kids go to camp, arrive to camp with technology, some digital device, a phone, a tablet, etc. And they'll stay huddled on the bleachers or on the floor. And I'm like, what kind of camp or experience is this? What kind of precedents are we setting here? I just think that's preposterous. Why would you send your kid off to camp with technology? You want to, get them away from all the devices, from the noise, from the chatter, from the distortion of all that in their life. Clean their brains out with good old dodgeball. Yeah. Nail that kid. Just kidding. I mean, there's great things to do. Just, the arts, the supplies, the experiences, the sports outside, the really incredibly hot, long days. You remember when you were a kid? That made me really think about the summer and experience because we'll have a day like this where I don't have to give a talk afterward. And I work at another radio station. I do not have to be on the air there. I am fortunate, really fortunate, to spend the day with my kids, take them around New York City, etc. So some days, if I have another similar day like this, the day can be really long. It reminds me of my youth. Just being able to, experience those really long summer days. And I'm kind of experiencing them in a different way as well, because in a good way. Because to me, like the essence of summer, it's spending quality time outside, whether it's in a hammock, whether doing your yard work or going for a bike ride, a walk, a jog, a run, whatever the case may be. It's just living outside, outdoor living. I mean, that's become a huge, actually, component for industry because for furniture, designers, manufacturers, I mean, they're just focusing on everything. If you live in a part of the country or the world where you can live outside in terms of, like, of course, pool, deck, etc. living. And I've seen my share of summer concerts so far, and there's nothing like outdoor live shows. I mean, to me, that just capitalizes on the real, true essence of summer. So I had a great experience 3 weeks ago. Another radio station I work for, a rock station, was hosting a summer birthday party at one of these venues called the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, New Jersey, which is the epicenter of rock, certainly in New Jersey, and one of the forefront venues in the nation. It's legendary. Bruce Springsteen grew up there, Bon Jovi, Southside Johnny, a slew of really, really big artists. So anyway, so that show was really great. Got to get up on stage and really work the crowd, and the crowd was so responsive. It was just a great, great event. And the beach is right across the street, and I'm looking at my wife going, this is just amazing. This is just summer at its best. I mean, live music and, just fans clamoring over the bands and cold cocktails and sand and the surf and the sea. And me, and my wife, and a nice dinner afterwards. So that's 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes were performing. And it's not unlikely, certainly in the past, that when Southside performs, that Bruce Springsteen shows up. He only lives 25 minutes away. They are good friends, and they grew up playing and gigging together for years. And so that was the rumor. And I'm like, oh, that would be great. Of course, I would not be, displeased if Bruce showed up. So about an hour into the set, and by the way, this was another hot night. Not as hot as today. By the way, what is, we got to check with my line producer over here. What is the temperature right now in New York City? Jesse will get back to me. So here we are at Stone Pony, and Southside says, you know what, I think it's going to rain. So, without any further ado, let's bring in the man from Freehold, New Jersey. And out comes Bruce, and the place goes bonkers. It erupts. Controlled pandemonium. It was awesome. And so, it was just like a dream come true. Bruce comes out there, and he's a pro on so many levels because he just doesn't just take over the stage. He knows his place. I mean, so many stars can easily and inadvertently just take over the limelight. And he's very, very humble. He doesn't go up to the front of the stage, only if he has a guitar solo. He holds back. And this is an interesting observation I made as well. And I want to ask somebody in the business if I'm correct about this, that there's one vocal mic. And they did 7 songs together. And bear with me here. I have a rationale to this. So you know that they performed together, rehearsed probably at least 2 or 3 times with the band, because Southside's band is probably about 7 to 10 pieces. Really good horn section, etc., background vocalists, etc. Good stuff. So when Bruce sings with Southside, they either share the mic, or if Bruce is taking the lyric, he leans over into Southside's mic, etc. But it's interesting to see that Bruce does not have his own mic. And my theory is that Bruce, during rehearsal, had his own mic. And he said to Southside, no, man, this is your gig. You are the main man. This is your show. You get the mic. I come over to you. And it kind of makes sense. And it really kind of makes for a different experience when you have 2 icons. Is Southside Johnny considered an icon? Probably not. Legendary? Absolutely. He's an iconic Jersey Shore guy. Let's leave it at that. Anyway, you got these 2 super guys performing together and sharing a mic. I think it makes them much more intimate. So there they are on the stage playing Fever. I got the fever. Hey, I got the... You know that song. They played Kitty's Back off of Greetings from Asbury Park. I mean, the place... I mean, I just get goosebumps thinking about it. And so I went out to bring in a friend of mine during a song. By the way, this is all outside. This is like one city block. You're facing the ocean, so there's just gates. So I run over to the gate to bring a friend of mine in, and I see on the neighboring street, one-way street, There's cars all, parked there orderly. But what was not orderly is that everybody was dancing like crazy in the back of pickup trucks, on the hood of cars, laying on the hood of cars, through skylights, sunroofs. It was just the perfect summer night. And so I hope you're experiencing whatever that form of perfection of summer is for you. Of course, we have ample time left to experience outdoor shows. I mean, to me, that's the best. It's just being outdoors, cold drink, whether it's on a dock, watching the boats just drift, the water lapping on them. And speaking of boats, my good friend just bought a boat recently. Oh, this is actually an interesting story. I'm going to make it a 30-second version, though. He called me about 4 months ago. He goes, "Hey, Mark, I bought a boat today." So he's driving back from this boat show. I'm like, "Oh, that's great. That's great. What did your wife say?" He goes, "She doesn't know." And I said, what do you mean she doesn't know? You just bought a brand new boat? Now I'm thinking, okay, whatever size he was thinking of, like 25, 28 footer, it's got to be 100K and up. So he said, "Yeah, I bought a 24 footer. I'm like, okay. Interesting how this is going to go over. Anyway, didn't go over well at all, but he did not have to return it. So last Saturday, my son and I went out with my friend Joe, and we're still trying to decide a name on this boat. Anyway, my son Luke, who is about 5 feet away from me, caught about a 20-inch shark, maybe 25-inch shark. And it was an incredible time. So outdoor fishing, of course, not indoor fishing. The fishing in the summertime is amazing work. Fireworks, oh my God. I never get my fill of fireworks because in the summertime, on a boat, on the beach, in a park, your backyard, your neighbors, whatever, when there's fireworks going off, it just screams summertime. And when you got a watermelon in your hand, whether it's been soaked with Grey Goose or not, that's up to you, not passing any judgment. And bare feet walking around the grass. There's nothing like it, right? Yeah, I'm no different than any other guy. I take pride in my lawn. Oh, yeah. I cut it a certain way, and the next week I cut it another way. I put my fertilizer down. I say to people, "Did you notice my lawn?" There's a great commercial out now. I think it's for Progressive. Yeah, you can't help from being your parents, right? So this commercial, maybe you've heard it. It's a radio commercial where he goes, "You can't stop from being your parents." And the guy's like, "Did you notice I cut the lawn? Did you thank me for cutting the lawn? Did you notice our lawn's nicer than a neighbor's lawn?" He goes on and on again. And, of course, the next week he starts over and mows the lawn again, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not doing any justice at all in terms of sizing up the commercial, but I'm kind of the same way. I take a lot of pride in my lawn, and it's just like one of these summertime prideful things. 28 minutes after the hour of 11 o'clock in New York City. Straight up, my name is Mark Farrell. The show is Insight. Thanks so much. Always love to hear from you. 888-874-4888. Like to thank everybody for all their hard work. We had a massive move for the Progressive Radio Network that took place a few weeks ago, and we are nestled in our new home on West 35th Street in the heart of New York City, in the Pulse in Midtown of the Big Apple. And so many hours, so many planning, so many errors were made because of you never can plan in advance because you never find out until something or how something's built until you get here. So to Jesse and to Gary and to everybody who put in all these long hours to make this beautiful facility our new home. We're going to be up online Facebook so you can see and we can have more interaction. And my guest will resume next week. I wanted to get the lay of the land for today. And you'll be very, very happy with certainly the product. And if you're in the tri-state area, we have an added bonus for you that you can actually pick up products right here at our Midtown location. Again, 29 minutes after the hour. And I want to continue the summer theme. I started doing something a few months ago that my wife started to do herself. She started to do yoga. And I have done yoga in the past. And by the way, let me put the brakes on this for a second. If today's kind of a different show, it's purposeful because I just wanted to kind of embrace like all things summer and just kind of embrace like the moment of July before it slips away. My theory is once the 4th of July is here, the summer's like kiss it goodbye. It's like gone. So that's why I want to kind of focus on just kind of where we are right now at the moment. And speaking of moments, this morning when I teach 6 a.m. spin on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I put together this playlist. And what I'll do is I'll put it on my Insight page because I thought it was going to be a pretty good playlist. But it really, really set the tone, certainly to get people psyched and motivated and pumped, but for summer in general. And the first song itself, actually, I'll tease you with this, was War's Summertime. 'Cause it's summer. Summertime is here. I know, I won't sing anymore. I apologize. I don't know what's gotten into me for singing today. But anyway, I'll post that playlist on the PRN page or for Insight, so check that out. Anyway, so my wife started doing yoga about 6 months ago. And I had done it sporadically at most years ago, and I liked it. It wasn't like I ever got bitten by the yoga bug, but I always considered it like a dessert workout. Now, what I mean by dessert workout is like you have to have your main course of like weights and cardio. And then so dessert is like, if you get to having dessert, great. So that would be yoga. So I started doing it several months ago, and I can't say enough about it. I've spoken about this, I think, several months ago. And there's so many different aspects of it that I love about it, and so many aspects that are completely god darn funny about it. Like being in a really, really unscrupulous pose and trying not to pass gas. Being a few feet away from a very, very attractive woman in a very, very compromised position and trying to keep a straight face. I mean, there's, of course, besides all the health benefits, it's very, very interesting. The flexibility aspect, that you're elongating all these muscles. Kind of a gym rat, a fitness nut. So I really, really appreciate this aspect. Something that I do on my own, but when you're doing yoga, you're doing it to a much further extent, higher extent. And then this particular place I have kind of become a member of has hot yoga. Remember it was called Bikram yoga? That was the trend and the fad for probably 5 or 8 years. But Bikram, if you didn't know, Bikram is the creator of hot yoga with the concept where you're in a room that's really hot, 95 degrees and above, and you can elongate your muscles through poses that you wouldn't normally be able to do or as deep as in Bikram/hot yoga. But Bikram got into a lot of trouble in the last couple of years, so much so that he had to, basically people forfeited his name, they took down Bikram's name. He actually I think he was seeking asylum in some country, I'm not making this up, because all the women who pressed charges against sexual assault against him. He's either in, do I want to say Turkey? I forget. Anyway, so that's hot yoga. So I started to do it. And I remember my first class thinking, oh my God, this is insane. Like 20 minutes into it, I'm like, whoa. Looking at the thermostat of this augmented heater, because the panels in the ceiling aren't enough. They have to have heaters in the room. I'm like, really? Really? 98, 99, 100, 102. Can it be? No, it's still going up. 106 degrees in this room. And I was like, whoa. So now at this point, I mean, my puddles of sweat are falling off so much it almost sounds like a little percussion, like... The puddles of sweat were just incredible. So, of course, now I had to bring a towel. But the upside is it's really detoxifying. Now, I know as a listener of the Progressive Radio Network, you're into health and wellness. And that's why I mentioned it, because it's something that, number one, at any age is great. Obviously, if teens and above, the older you get, the more restricted a lot of us become. So to keep that range of motion, that is pivotal, because it opens up different parts of your body, your chest cavity, your lungs, your diaphragm. Did I just say diaphragm? Oh my God, I need a cup of coffee. Not your diaphragm. Well, I guess it could open your diaphragm. Let's just keep it at lungs. All parts of your body, every muscle group. It's just incredible. A diaphragm. Oh my God, that's hysterical. I can't say enough of it. Sometimes I had to step out like 2 or 3 times throughout a class, but that's fine because I get a glass of water, towel off, second or third towel, I should say, fresh towel. But it's really kind of made me feel I always feel good, even better. But I have to, on that note, I have to tell you something else that this happened like maybe 2 months ago. This is a funny story. I said to my wife, all right, don't laugh at me. I said to her, I feel like I'm getting old. She goes, why? I said, I feel like it happened like in the last day or two. She goes, well, that can't be true. I mean, yeah, you may feel old, but you don't get old in a couple days. She says, well, what's wrong? I said, she actually made a joke or two that may be not that suitable for other ears in the studio right now, so I will let that joke go till another time. But anyway, I said, I just don't feel, I feel a little lethargic. Just, I don't know what's going on. And we were just about to go on vacation. He's like, maybe you need this vacation. I'm like, yeah. So I kind of realized what was going on. My sleeping habits aren't the best. Because number one, every day of the week, Monday through Friday, I'm up at usually 4:30, 5 o'clock to either go to 5:30 a.m. spin or to be on another radio station for the 6 a.m. Hour. And I'm usually the radio station at 5, or I teach a class. So, and that's fine. I don't mind getting up because I think it's a peaceful part of the day and it's quiet and the roads are free and clear for the most part unless you're coming into the city. But I don't get the required amount of sleep. And here's the other part, and this is my own fault. I know this. Is that my kids, at the end of the night, they'll be like, hey, come on in, we'll read or whatever in their bed, and I'll pass out. Next thing you know, I could wake up, maybe I lay in their bed from like 9 to 12, 1 o'clock, and I wake up. So I didn't get good sleep because they're tossing and turning. So now I'm wide awake. So now I may be awake from like 12 or 1 to like 2 or 3. And that's just no good. So if you do that several days a week, that's not good. So that's the first variable that I realized, that my sleeping patterns weren't that good. Secondly, my eating habits. They're not bad. I don't eat junk food or anything like that. But I don't think I eat as healthy as I should, or the amount of calories I need to consume for as much as I'm exhibiting or burning off. So, and there was another variable. What was the other variable? Let me see if I actually jotted this down on my commute in this morning. Yeah, I think that was it. Just felt fatigued, and I was just kind of like feeling out of sorts. So, happy to report that it's past me. It's gone. I guess I just, we all kind of go through, bumps, whether we realize it or not, and whether they can be attributed to a particular cause. Sometimes it can and sometimes it cannot. But I still need to make some improvement, certainly on the sleeping patterns. And here's the reality is I never get enough sleep. Like, I'm a night person more than a morning person, but I still like the mornings. So, for example, tomorrow morning I need to get up at 4:45. So I will not go to bed until, if I don't fall asleep with my kids, I won't go to sleep until probably 12, 11:30, 12. So that's just not enough sleep, especially if you're working out during the day. Certainly 5 days a week, I am at least 5. So I need to just take better care of myself. And so the point of this whole hot yoga, Bikram, formerly known as Bikram, and lack of energy conversation is to open your eyes about possibly what's going on in your life. So do you feel lethargic? Is there something that you're doing that you realize, wow, this is great. This is really working wonders for me. I just bought a new pair of running shoes. And I want to start hitting the roads again because I just get so consumed with doing the other things, cycling, and I ride outdoors a lot, that I want to get back on the road of running. Not doing a lot of miles, just like 3-4 miles a clip, maybe twice a week. That's it. Because there's a local running club in my area that has kids races in the summertime. And I thought this was a great concept. And the kids races are very, very small. 25 yards, 50 yards, and 100 yards. So like my 10-year-old will run the football field length 100 yards. So it's a great concept. And again, underneath the umbrella theme for today of summer, of getting out there, living outside. Because before you know it, depending on where you live and where you're listening today, listen to Inside Show, summer's over in a flash. I mean, already you're looking at, I got dates in September and October and I'm booking up for my speaking business and also just travel plans, etc. That, I'm almost into November, December, so that's kind of a scary thing. And So just really embrace this time before you have to pull out that sweater and switch out that wardrobe in the closet. Do people do? I don't think guys do that. I think that's sorry, I'm going to sound sexist here. I think that's a female experience because guys don't have enough clothes, I think, to have to swap out a closet. I have the same shelf in when we bought this house, I gave the closet to my wife, and I just put a shelf that runs all the way the length of the closet. I'm like, that's where I'll put my stuff. You don't need a dresser? Yeah, I got a dresser outside, but I don't. But I can put my hanging clothes in the hallway closet down in the hallway there. You don't need it to be in the same room? No, I don't need it to be in the same room. Guys are like that. They're just guys. They're, kind of easy to please, whatever. But yeah, we don't have to swap out our spring and summer and fall wardrobes. But it's crazy because it won't be that far away. 41 minutes past the hour of 11 o'clock in New York City. My name is Mark Farrell. Thanks so much for spending your Thursday with me. Hopefully you're on vacation this week. Yay! And you're going somewhere that you've been yearning for. A friend of mine went to Alaska recently, and I've yet to catch up with them since they've been back. But I've been reading, coincidentally, since they've been away, about the rising temperatures in Alaska. And it's really, really sad to see. As a matter of fact, I saw a protest recently this week. I saw it, where was it, in the Washington Post or the New York Times, where there was 4 or 5 people standing underneath. They had a noose over their neck and standing on blocks of ice, to give the metaphor of yes, they will soon be dying because the ice is melting. Temperature has been rising for the last, I don't know how many years, but it was a very, very powerful metaphor that I thought was just a great grassroots way to kind of send a message globally what's going on. As a matter of fact, I was reading something. What did I read last night? Something about in Trump's administration about the Paris Agreement, how they pulled out of it, but there's something else about global warming. And I wouldn't be surprised, I read this a few weeks ago, if Trump starts actually changing his tune a little bit, because I think some of the right is starting to see the light and starting to actually articulate this. And by the way, let me take a step back here and mention what I was mentioning in the beginning of the show in terms of Trump making those inappropriate remarks to the 4 congressional ladies about going back home. It was good to see that Republicans were speaking out against him. I was very, very happy to see that because, what good are you in any profession, especially when you're representing the people, if you can't speak out and denounce? Yes, I know it's the chief of commander-in-chief, but I mean, when someone's wrong to that caliber, to that degree, with such disdain for the American people, I mean, you have to. What good are you in the office or the chair, the position that you hold, if you don't speak out? So I'm glad some Republicans did. Not enough, certainly did, but I was glad to see that take place, and that was kind of hinging on the topic of global warming. So I would like to see more Republicans certainly come out, because if that happens, if his base starts to realize in the smallest degree or recognize global warming, then maybe he'll start talking and considering some changes. Whether he would actually come through or not is a different story. So I want to talk about lending a hand. My wife calls me Dudley Do-Right. I'm always helping people out, my neighbors, certainly on the block. As a matter of fact, there's a development that was built, I'd say, about a football field away from us. And it's a neighboring development, but there's a tree line. And long story short, there is a bunch of weeds that I believe this one homeowner, a new homeowner, because it's a new development, brand new, doesn't realize that this property belongs to them. So it's kind of an eyesore for us when we pull in for everyone in our development. There's only about 15 homes in where I live. It's just a cul-de-sac. So I went over there with my mower. I drove it all the way over there with a weed whacker, and I took it all down. And there's 2 people who live right there, and I was just wondering, why wouldn't they do that? I mean, they're staring at this. And it's always been my upbringing. I'm not sure if I'm wired this way. I think it's just been leading by example. My father used to always do things, and my mother, very proactive in life. So, yes, should the people... Well, first off, the guy who lives in that house should be taken care of, but he probably doesn't realize it's his property. It's because it's kind of convoluted. It's not a no-brainer. Anyway, you would think these people who keep their homes pristine would take care of, it takes 2 minutes to run over there with a mower. Bam, bam, zip, done. Looks great. So here I am, and my wife said to me, why'd you do that? I'm glad you did it, but why'd you do that? I'm like, because it needs to be done. And I don't want to be that person that would say, just drive by every day, why doesn't that person or why doesn't this neighbor just get it done? I mean, if more people, I think, took that attitude, like New Yorkers, a lot of New Yorkers help out. Against, I think, popular belief that, New Yorkers stay themselves. Sure, a lot of people do. But on the most part, New Yorkers are very, very helpful people. And I find that should be the case. And I think that is the case more often than not. The people who just don't pitch in and or don't help out, whether it's a crisis situation, a fire, a mugging, et cetera. And certainly, by all means, you have to weigh the danger involved. But certainly, I believe that, like, if it's a piece of paper on the ground, if I'm walking right there, if I'm standing, I will pick it up. Is it mine? No. Do I believe the person should have dropped it? Of course not. Was it an accident? Possibly. But you have to follow through and do things. So I got a call the other day. Actually, it was a week ago this Monday, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock. I'm driving back from a talk I gave my mother-in-law. She's like, hey, Mark, my hot water heater, I think, just died. And the bubble over my head said, oh, my God, you didn't listen to me and get this thing fixed 6 months ago like I asked you and pleaded with you because there's rust on the bottom after a water leak that she had right above it. So, of course, I didn't say anything. I'm like, okay, how bad is it? She goes, well, it's leaking a little bit. I was like, well, shut the water off, et cetera. And, so basically, my brother-in-law and I converged to her house it's an hour away for each of us at 8:30 or 9 o'clock that night. And I had to be up at 4:30 or 4 o'clock the next morning. So case in point, I knew she couldn't get a plumber. If you were going to get a plumber, he's just going to turn the water off and or charge you double or triple time for a after-hours repair and or installing of a new hot water heater. So long story short, we did it. We pulled the other one. As a matter of fact, I brought a Sawzall because I'm trying to get my mother-in-law out of this house. And I'm just not making this job pretty because she lives in an area where, which is very commonplace nowadays, where developments, people just buy a house and they knock it down and put a brand new one up because it's close to the city, and that's what they do. They want the real estate. So no matter what kind of condition this house is, it's a ranch, they're just going to knock it down. So I said to her, listen, I have somebody who wants to buy your house. I told her this 6 months ago. So when he buys it, he's just going to knock it down. So when I'm driving over there last Monday with a hot water heater in mind, I'm thinking, like, how am I going to get this thing out of the basement? It's 80-gallon or 100-gallon if I can't drain it. I said, I'm just going to cut a hole in the wall and just roll it right in the other room and just put the new one there, a little squatty one, because it's just got to get her through the next couple months. And sure enough, that's what I did, because you just got to do what you got to do, right? I had to make the job, complete the job, start it and finish it, and just be done. So I rolled out of there, I think, and got home by 1:30 in the morning. So people say to me, wow, well, what'd you do that for last night? I'm like, listen, yeah, you can't have a 60-some-odd-year-old person living in a house without hot water, a couple. And secondly, why wouldn't I do the right thing? I mean, that's what I think we should all think about. Why wouldn't I do the right thing? Why wouldn't I, help my neighbor? I'm not a religious guy at all. As a matter of fact, there's two of my friends. One of my friends went the religious route, and then he's back to my route. It's just like, yeah, well, it didn't work out for me. Then I have another one of my buddies who's like, oh man, he's all in. He's like, and what's the expression? In for a dollar, in for a pound, something like that. Yeah, he's all in, and I respect it. But just don't preach it to me, my friend. Just this is what I like. My religion is fitness, and my body's a temple. I treat thy neighbor like I want to be treated, and that's my religion. You believe what you want to believe, and don't inflict it on me. Anyway, so I think it's paramount just to treat people the way we want to be treated in terms of helping people out. I mean, what's it take to, a lot of my neighbors are kind of handy, or between all of us, we have a ton of tools, and I'm always building, repairing, formulating, designing something in my house, because that's what I like to do. And one of the reasons why I bought the house that I have is because of that reason. I just did a walk-in closet that I designed and built out from scratch. Ripped out everything in the closet. That was just wire shelves, and it came out great. But now when I go to sell the house, it's going to have more added value because it's a customized closet. It looks beautiful. So the visually impaired guy, yes, can do carpentry, and that's one of the things that gives me pride and therapy and fulfillment in life. So anyway, so the point of the story is, why not lend a hand? I'm always doing this in work situations. As a matter of fact, to a fault. Where I will say to another superior I have, hey, I have a concept for you, and I want to make it for you. And so I'll design something for his on-air product. And he'll say, great, and then he'll air it. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, well, that was kind of a favor, but if you're going to air it, that means I should be compensated. So, so there's limits to what we should do without feeling exploited or appreciated. I know somebody who is the most gracious person in the world. Well, up there. I mean, who is the most gracious? Who knows? Gandhi? I don't know. And I think this person gets very disenchanted often because many of the things she does are not reciprocated. So you can't do things in the mindset that you're going to get something back. If you're doing it for that reason, I don't know. Maybe some people do and do expect it back. And hey, if you get an acknowledgement, that's great. Like my mother-in-law, she was doing cartwheels. She's like, oh my God, we got a hot shower the next morning. It was great. I was washing dishes. Everything was back to normal. I can't believe you guys just put your life on hold, put the brakes on, came over, stayed here, and didn't get home until the wee hours of the morning. But that's what you do for people that you love and care about. So just for complete strangers, helping people out. Like I raise my kids. You hold the doors open for strangers when you're going in and out of the store. Yes, they're young, but they even appreciate it even more, adults. And maybe that also teaches the adult a lesson that, wow, here's a kid, not even a teenager, holding the door open for me. And maybe that needs to remind me that I need to be more polite and respectful of people in the world. Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to sound preachy because we're all adults out there and here. Well, some of us. I'm an adult sometimes. I don't want to be a true adult. Looking forward to this weekend. I'm hosting a music event down the Jersey Shore, and it's a really cool thing. It's a health and wellness festival. But it's first and foremost a music festival with the wellness component and food component and drinks component. So it's a huge outdoor party. This is going to be the third year in a row that I'll be hosting it. And the bands, I'm always just in awe. They're just local bands, I'd say within an hour's radius. And they're just really, really phenomenal. I just can't get over how they acquire this talent. Anyway, so it's great to be on a stage with these bands, and just a day of, they tout it as a day of healing, and et cetera, et cetera. But for me, it's just a day of rock and roll in the sun with some cold ones and some great people. Yeah, there's yoga. Yeah, there's food, and there's organic food, and there's food that'll kill you in 2 hours. They got everything. Of course, you want to do downward facing dog. You can do that. Maybe that'll negate some of the cookies and cream ice cream that you just ate, or the fried Oreos. But it's a great thing, and that goes further proof to the point that I was mentioning earlier in the show about outdoor summertime experiencing that time. It's just great with family and friends and just to go out. Excuse me. And whether it's just a walk on the beach. I remember last August, we had some time down the shore. And my son said to me, hey, what time's the sunrise? I told him that time. I don't know what it was, 6:05, 6:10. He's like, I want to check it out. I'm like, you really? He's like, yeah. Okay, so I woke him up. I was like, hey. He's like, okay, I'm ready. And so we went out. We watched the sunrise. I mean, how prideful was I? So that was last year. Now, his birthday was June, a couple months ago. Last month, actually. I know my months. He said to me the same thing. Now we're not at the beach. We're like 20 minutes inland. He said to me, hey, I want to watch the sunrise. I'm like, you do understand that I'll probably have to wake you up around 5:15 and we have to drive. And he's like, yeah. No, I really like to do that. I'm saying to myself, whose kid is this? Man, this is amazing that he appreciates this. So, if you're a parent, aunt, uncle, cousin, whatever, just know that whatever you're doing in their lives, you're influencing them. And that's really, really cool. He knows I like to watch the sunrise, the sunsets. So to have a component or characteristic and an appreciation of nature like that really, really makes me happy. So yeah, I woke him up. He's like, okay, I'm ready. Just picks his head up in his pillow. He's like one of these people who can just wake up and start walking away. I'm like, oh my God, I got to rub my eyes and turn over a few times. So yeah, he slept in the car. We get to the beach. We actually brought bikes. And that was cool. So we watched the sunrise while we're riding on the boardwalk, which made it even more interesting, especially when he rode into the wall. But he was unscathed. But the point is that never ever forget what kind of positive influence you can have on people. Kids, adults, colleagues, peers, whatever the case may be. It's all good stuff. Thanks so much for listening today. Really appreciate it. And thanks again for all the guys who did so much incredible work in designing this new facility. I'm sure we're going to have some pictures up online. Right, Jesse? Get some new studio pictures up online. Our new digs. Come by, say hello. Love to meet you. Love listeners. That's the reason why I'm in radio. Because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of music. I'm a fan of people. I'm a fan of entertainment. I'm a fan of you. Thanks so much for listening. My name's Mark Farrell. This is Insight. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Insight with Mark Farrell. Check out this and all Insight shows on the Insight page at prn.fm. prn.fm. Have Mark speak at your company, your kid's school or college. Mark speaks on critical topics that affect kids and adults everywhere, from anti-bullying, mental health, drugs and alcohol, to overcoming adversity. Visit markfarrellmotivation.com for more info. Insight, Thursday mornings at 11 on the Progressive Radio Network.